What do you do when you're scattered? Hey friends, it's Pastor Mike from Fellowship Church. Always enjoy connecting with you midweek. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful spring-like weather, loving this warm sunshine. And that question for you again, what do you do when you're scattered? Now, friends, I've always enjoyed the book of Acts because the book of Acts in the Bible is the story of the early church. It's the story of Jesus sending his disciples/apostles out into the world, and they're planting the church and the church growing explosively. So I love the story of the book of Acts. But there are some really tragic stories in the book of Acts as well. If you go to Acts chapter 7, Stephen, who was one of those early disciples, is giving his testimony before the religious leaders. They called them the Sanhedrin. They didn't like his testimony, particularly his words about Jesus' resurrection and his Jesus reigning. And so those early church leaders, including a man named Saul, who would eventually be known as Paul, those early church leaders killed him. They murdered him. They stoned him because they didn't like his testimony and they considered it to be blasphemy. Well, after that took place, the Bible tells us that a persecution broke out in the early church and that Paul, who was still known as Saul back then, was going from house to house, dragging believers off and putting them in prison. Try to imagine that story. I mean, for us, we show up and we do church and there is no persecution for us generally. In those days, Paul was literally going from church to church, house to house, and dragging people away. And then the Bible tells us that a great persecution broke out. Now, the word persecution hurts enough, but the word great persecution sounds incredibly tragic. And it says that those original followers of Jesus were scattered. Scattered sounds to me like they were just kind of on the run for their own life. But here's the interesting thing. The Bible, at the very early parts of Acts chapter 8, tells us that as they were scattered, they went preaching wherever they went. Meaning that as those followers of Jesus were scattered, probably leaving behind some really significant things, homes, possessions, maybe jobs, maybe other family members, friends, they were just on the run for their life. They were scattered because of what they believed and they refused to recant. Or rather than go hide under a rock someplace, which is pretty much what most people would do, they literally, as they were scattered, were still out telling people about Jesus, knowing that for them it might require them to live life on the run. They were on the lam, as the movies would say. They were doing discipleship and building the church and preaching while they were scattered. So in the midst of this incredibly upsetting event in their life, they were still talking about Jesus. Hey friends, I wonder what happens to you. I wonder how you behave and function when you're scattered. Because here's what the word scattered means. It doesn't simply mean leaving something physically. The word scattered means something that's an event that takes place in your life that is terribly upsetting and throws a lot of things into confusion. And yes, it may involve a physical running away, but the word scattered means that your life is just now out of balance and you're unsure about so many things. Well, friends, maybe you've had an occasion in your life or occasions when life felt pretty scattered. It could be a medical emergency. It could be a relational breakdown. It could be loss of job, loss of finances, whatever it may be. You've probably had occasions in your life when you were just scattered. I wonder what happens when you're scattered. And I wonder how you live that out, because those early disciples refused to give up on Jesus. And not only did they refuse to give up on Jesus, but even as they were being scattered, which was all about Jesus in the first place, they were still talking about Jesus out there. I'm not sure if I'd have the strength to do that, but that's what those early disciples did. Even while they were scattered, they were still talking about Jesus. Friends, I wonder what happens to you, and I wonder how you live life when you're scattered. It takes a lot of faith to still be talking about Jesus when you're scattered. I hope that faith is true of you too. Friends, I hope that message resonates with you. It's a little bit convicting for me. I'll be thinking about it in the days to come. I hope you're thinking about it too. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Hope you have a wonderful week. Know that we love you and pray about you all the time. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.